I had spent years of my life building a future with Chloe, my now billionaire wife. And now, as her company went public and her net worth skyrocketed, all I could do was sit back and wonder what was left for me. I had always been the guy who worked 9 to 5 while she was the one who climbed the ladder to success. But now, with her being the most powerful CEO in the city, I felt like a mere wage slave. What else could I do but divorce her? I thought to myself, I'd been with Chloe through thick and thin, even when she was scraping the bottom. We both suffered together when her company was on the brink of bankruptcy. It was me who helped her get back on her feet, borrowing everything I could, putting our wedding savings on the line and risking it all for her dream. I had always believed in her, even when no one else did. But now, with her wealth beyond anything I could have imagined, it felt like I was nothing more than a bystander in her success story. I'd been thinking about it for a while, and the more I thought, the more it seemed like the only option. The idea of taking the tens of millions in breakup fees she'd owe me and walking away with my head held high seemed too good to pass up. After all, who would hesitate? The money she would give me could set me up for life. But then came the day I overheard something I couldn't ignore. I was walking by the restroom when I heard Chloe talking to her best friend, Lily, on the phone. Her voice was casual, almost flirtatious, as she mentioned a man named Jack. He was handsome, successful, and a familiar name from her past. "He's not just any friend," Chloe, Lily teased. "He's your alumni, right? Don't tell me you don't have any feelings for him." I froze in the doorway, my heart sinking as I heard her reply. "He's just a friend, nothing more." But it wasn't just what she said that made me stop. It was how she said it. She had been distant lately and now I knew why. She wasn't just successful. She was changing. And it was like a switch had flipped inside me. Chloe had come so far and now I was just someone who had helped her get there. I wasn't sure what was worse. The idea that she might be cheating or the fact that I could no longer keep up with her. I thought about our wedding. The way we had barely scraped by, borrowing money for everything, not even able to afford a decent wedding banquet. And now here she was throwing around Mercedes cars and designer clothes like they were nothing. It hurt to realize that she was buying those things for someone else, someone she might love more than me. What really hit me was the image of her on the TV screen. Chloe's company had just gone public, and the interviewer was none other than Jack, the same man who had been the subject of their conversation in the bathroom. Watching him on TV, looking perfect, handsome, and so at ease with the world, it hit me like a punch in the gut. He was everything I wasn't, everything I could never be. The man Chloe had now become close to, David, my lawyer and old friend from college, was sitting across from me at a tea house when he saw the look on my face. "What's going on, Ethan? You look like you've seen a ghost." I couldn't help but laugh bitterly. "I want a divorce, David." He nearly choked on his tea. "What? Divorce? After everything she's been through, Ethan, you're crazy. You helped her build this empire, and now you want to walk away." But deep down, I knew it wasn't just the money or her wealth that was bothering me. It was the fear of losing her, of watching her drift away into the arms of someone else. I'd given so much of myself to help her, but now I was starting to question whether there was anything left for me. The man I used to be had faded into the background of her success story. I remembered how when we first met, I had admired Chloe for her ambition, her fire, her drive. But now it felt like she was burning brighter than I could ever imagine. And I was just standing in her shadow, waiting for her to leave me behind. "David, you don't understand," I said quietly. "Back then, she was struggling. I could hold on to her, protect her, but now she's a different person, a person who doesn't need me anymore." David sighed, clearly trying to reason with me. "You helped her build this life. No one would walk away from that. Not with someone like Chloe." But I couldn't deny it anymore. She was different. She wasn't the same woman I had married that night. I watched Chloe on TV again, laughing and talking with Jack. The way she smiled, the way she looked at him. It wasn't like the old Chloe I knew. It hurt, but it also freed me in some way. I couldn't keep living like this. I deserved better than to just be a silent partner in her success. When Chloe came home, she sat next to me as if nothing had changed. She casually mentioned how handsome Jack was and laughed about how many men were calling her wife online. It felt like a slap in the face. "Let's go buy a car," she said, trying to brush off the tension. "We'll get whatever you want." Her words, her nonchalance, it was like she didn't even care about how I felt anymore. It made me realize that maybe it was time to stop pretending. Maybe it was time for me to finally let go. I stood up, feeling a rush of finality. No more waiting. No more holding on. Chloe had everything she ever wanted now. But in the process, she had forgotten the person who had once helped her get there. It was time for me to take what was rightfully mine, walk away, and start a new chapter without her. I chose the top-of-the-line model because I wanted my car to be better. Better than Jack's AMG GT63. But the day after I picked it up, I had my first accident. A head-on collision with Jack's car. He stood on the curb, his face dark with anger, his eyes filled with resentment. The sight of the two luxury cars smashed together immediately drew a crowd. And before long, the traffic police arrived. "Mr. Jack," the officer said, looking over the footage from the dash cam and surveillance cameras. "The footage clearly shows you were at fault for changing lanes over a solid line." Jack didn't seem to hear him. His eyes were fixed on his beloved AMG, now badly damaged. The side was dented, the headlights shattered, and one of the tires was blown. He barely acknowledged the officer's words, his face red with frustration. "Which idiot was driving? Couldn't you have yielded when I changed lanes?" He raged. "Now both cars need major repairs. Are you happy now?" His unhinged behavior left the officers stunned. Watching from the side, a passerby spoke up angrily. "Are you kidding me? You're driving an AMG GT and you're complaining the other cars of Panamera. What do you expect?" I stayed calm. I wasn't interested in engaging with him directly, especially in a situation like this. So, I waited for the officers to finish. But as soon as I stepped out of my car, Jack immediately pointed at me. "Couldn't you have yielded when I changed lanes? I'm in a hurry," he snapped. I looked at him with a raised eyebrow. "Oh, so driving a car worth over $1 million means you're allowed to cut people off? Looks like that AMG GT63 hasn't changed your fate, huh?" Jack froze when I said that. I noticed the shift in his expression as he looked at me. He quickly turned to the officers and said, "I'm leaving now. Handle it however you want. The insurance will talk to the other party." He left without another word, almost like he couldn't get out of there fast enough. It felt almost like he was more eager to leave than I was to confront him. The collision had been strange. He might have intentionally crossed the line to crash into me. I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right, so I called David at home. "Have you finalized the divorce agreement yet?" I asked. David sounded surprised. "Wait, are you serious? I thought you might reconsider, work it out. You really want to go through with this?" "Yes. I can't do this anymore. If I'm not happy, I'm not staying. Send the papers tomorrow." The next day, David handed me a file with the divorce agreement. It was everything I expected. Thorough, well organized, no surprises, really. It wasn't like I was losing much. My investments and profits were steady. But still, I couldn't deny it. I wasn't going to let Chloe's betrayal slide. Later that day, I went to Chloe's office. She looked at me, knowing something was off, but she didn't ask. "What do you need?" she asked, leaning back in her chair. "I need a favor," I said, placing my hands on her desk and leaning forward. "I want the keys to the AMG GT63. Her face faltered for a moment, and she stared at me as if she didn't quite understand. "Are you joking?" she asked, her voice nervous. I didn't laugh. I just stared back, unwavering. "Can you give them to me?" Chloe was quiet for a long moment, looking me over. She probably wondered if I was serious. Eventually, she sighed. "Fine, I'll get them to you tomorrow." I turned to leave, but before I closed the door, she called after me. "Are you jealous?" I didn't turn back. "Say whatever you want," I said, not caring anymore. Just before the door clicked shut, I heard the sound of a glass breaking inside her office. The next day, I went to meet Jack in a cafe. He looked worse than he had at the accident, his face pale and drawn. I sat down, gesturing for him to join me. "Jack, please sit." When he saw the keys to the AMG on the table, his eyes widened. "Mr. Ethan, are you here to rub this in my face?" I just smiled. "Not really. It's just a car." Jack's expression shifted, but before he could respond, I slid the keys across the table. "Take it," I said simply. "But don't snatch it from me. Understand?" His face drained of color as he stared at me. "What do you mean by this?" I paused, waiting a beat before speaking again. You don't know who I am, do you? We're family, Jack. Your mother's my stepmother. Your real name is Ethan and I'm your half-brother. Jack's jaw went slack. The color drained from his face as he stammered. No, you probably figured it out that day at the crash. You must have looked me up after, right? I said, leaning back in my chair. I know exactly what you're trying to do. Get with Chloe, but she's my wife. She's not yours. Jack was quiet for a long time, his eyes wide as the reality settled in. He tried to protest, but I cut him off. Look, I'm done with Chloe, but I won't let you profit off her misfortune. You and your mother have done enough damage to my family. Now it's my turn. I stood up to leave, but Jack was still in shock. His last words echoed in my mind as I walked out of the cafe. Please, Ethan. I didn't know. I didn't understand back then. I didn't stop. I had no time for his sob stories anymore. When I got home, I started picking at Chloe, finding little things to argue about, anything to distance myself. We were getting divorced, and I wasn't going to make it easy for her. When the wedding company called to confirm the venue, I told them to cancel everything. Chloe was livid when she found out. She came home, sat down on the couch, and looked at me, disbelief in her eyes. Ethan, have you lost your mind? She demanded. Is this about Jack? You knew he's my half-brother, right? You knew we were close. I tossed the divorce agreement in her lap. Look at this. If you have no objections, sign it. We're done. Chloe froze, eyes flicking from the papers to me. You're really doing this? I crossed my arms and stared at her emotionless. We've been living on the edge of a divorce for years. You know it. I know it. It's over. Her face went pale as the reality of it all sunk in. I didn't wait for her to say anything else. Sign it if you want to get it over with, but I'm done. I pointed my finger at Chloe, my voice trembling with anger. Having a little money makes you feel important, doesn't it? Makes you think you can look down on everyone else, doesn't it? Her mouth hung open slightly, eyes wide with disbelief. I had never been this angry in all the years we'd been together. After a long silence, Chloe reached out and hugged me. I just wanted you to reconcile with your father, she whispered, her voice shaky. I've been hesitant about this for a while, but I didn't expect you to find out. Maybe I misunderstood. Hearing her words, the anger inside me shifted into something deeper. Sadness. My heart ached, and before I knew it, tears streamed down my face. Chloe, you don't understand anything, I said, my voice breaking. Chloe shook her head, looking confused. No, that's not true. I know. I know about you seeing a psychologist 5 years ago. I know everything. I pushed her away, the weight of everything crashing down on me. Don't preach kindness when you've never felt true suffering. You don't know how my family fell apart. My father's millions went to my mother, leaving her with nothing. She lost custody of me. She spiraled into depression and I watched her waste away. Chloe's face was filled with disbelief. Maybe you misunderstood. Just like you misunderstood my relationship with Jack. She sounded hurt, her voice quiet but filled with emotion. I gave him the car because Lily liked him. I wanted to grab his attention. After all, he's still your brother. You don't understand. She took Jack away from me, stole everything, our home, the business, and tried to push my mother out. If I hadn't left early, you wouldn't even know me. Now, despite how Chloe saw it, I knew Jack was following in his mother's footsteps. He was determined to take what was mine. I picked up the divorce agreement from the floor, handed it to her, and said, remember, we agreed when we got married. If either of us wanted a divorce, the other wouldn't stop it. You can have the property, but I won't tolerate Jack being a part of your life. Chloe didn't take the agreement immediately. Instead, she just stared at me with red, swollen eyes. Ethan, how can you do this to me? She grabbed my shoulders and pushed me against the wall, her voice desperate. Why? What did I do to make you so cruel to me? I gently pushed her hands away. Looking out the window, I said softly, Chloe, one day you'll thank me for this. You can't test human nature like this. Chloe hugged me tightly, burying her face against my chest. Husband, do we really have to come to this? Don't do this, please. I didn't respond immediately. She raised her eyes, tears streaking down her face. Even if I haven't been perfect, I've tried. We've been through so much together. Her words hit me like a punch, but I stayed calm. No, Chloe. I've been through enough. We both have. But I can't live with this anymore. Chloe, her face a mixture of sadness and rage, picked up the pen on the table, scribbled her name on the divorce papers, and shoved them into my hand. Without another word, she turned and left. The days after the divorce were a blur. I went to my mom's apartment, bought groceries, and cooked dinner. Even though I left with nothing, my mom had found a way to support herself. She'd built her life back up. When she could afford it, she insisted I move in with her again, and we lived like that for a while. But after I married Chloe, things changed. She didn't want to live with her mother-in-law, so I moved out. I knocked on the door, and my mom greeted me with a warm smile, then looked behind me. "Why didn't you bring Chloe?" she asked, her voice filled with concern. I hesitated for a second. If I told her the truth now, she'd probably explode. So, I lied. "She's got a meeting," I said, trying to sound casual. "Oh, I see," Mom said, nodding, but I could tell she wasn't buying it. "Chloe's doing so well now. Isn't it time to start thinking about having a baby?" I sighed, the question making my chest tighten. "Let's take it slow, Mom. Let things happen as they will." I could see the disappointment in my mom's eyes. Back when Chloe and I lived in that small basement apartment, she talked about having children, but we both knew it wasn't the right time. No money, no time, just a constant struggle. Chloe had promised that if things went wrong, she would let me go and find someone else. But back then, I believed in her. Now, I wasn't sure anymore. At dinner, my mom sighed deeply, worrying about me. She wanted me to have a family, stability, things I just couldn't seem to grasp anymore. "Mom," I said gently. "Chloe and it just wasn't meant to be. I don't want to end up like you. Constantly worrying, always unsure." My mom shook her head. "You don't mean that. Marriage is hard, yes, but it's worth fighting for." I drank from my wineglass, trying to quiet the storm inside me. "No, Mom. You don't understand. Chloe's already reached the top, and I'm just here watching her from the bottom. Everyone knows her name, but no one remembers mine. I've been living in her shadow for too long." My mom's eyes filled with tears, and she took my hand. "You'll find someone who sees you, who loves you for who you are." I smiled weakly. "I hope so, Mom." After the meal, I pulled the divorce papers from my pocket and handed them to her. She stared at the papers in disbelief before slapping my arm in shock. "Are you trying to kill me, Ethan? Chloe was so good to you and now you're throwing it all away." I grabbed a bottle of wine, took a long gulp, and tried to reassure her. "Don't worry, Mom. I've got plenty of money from the divorce. We'll be fine. But what about Chloe? Is there really no chance of you two getting back together?" I shook my head. "It's over, Mom. She'll be fine. She's going to be bigger than she's ever been. Maybe global one day. But me, I'm just a footnote in her story." Mom's face crumpled and she wiped her tears. "You're still my son, and I'll always want the best for you." I kissed her forehead. "I know, Mom. I'm just trying to find my own way now." With that, I left, packed my bags, and set off on a trip around the world from South America to Antarctica, trying to escape the life I'd known. Maybe one day I'd figure it all out. I was enjoying the beautiful beach view when my phone rang. It was my father, a man who only called once every few years. I answered and his familiar, deep, slightly hoarse voice came through. "Ethan, I heard you divorced Chloe. Why don't you come work at the company? In the end, it'll be passed down to you boys," he said. I chuckled. "Jack's father, you're sounding more and more confused as you get older. Your company is already on its last legs. Otherwise, why would you be so eager about getting an AMG?" I heard my father cough uncontrollably on the other end of the line, and then a woman's voice came through. "Ethan, don't be so smug. After my son wins Chloe back, we'll invite you to the wedding. You must come." I snorted. "Old woman, you're just as shameless as you were back then." I could hear my father scolding her on the phone. The argument was all too familiar. Two brothers fighting over one woman. I shook my head. "Don't you have any shame?" I muttered, knowing that Jack could marry anyone, but Chloe. "Never." "Old man, are you senile? Don't you know what Chloe is like now? If it weren't for her efforts, this failing company would have been bankrupt years ago. I'm done with her, and you should be, too." There was a brief silence, then more angry words from my father. I didn't even care to listen anymore. Hanging up on them felt like the right choice. It's pointless to get involved in their never-ending drama. That man married his mistress, and now his own son wants to make Chloe his. It was laughable. What goes around comes around. As I was enjoying my time traveling, my mother called. "Son, that guy from the He family sent over some documents. It seems he wants to transfer part of his assets to you." I frowned. Is the old man about to kick the bucket? She sighed. Probably not anytime soon. Maybe his conscience is bothering him. I scoffed. Tell him my divorce settlement is worth 100 times more than his entire fortune. I don't need his petty money. That's true, my mother agreed. He can't compare to Chloe. I nodded. But then she added something that caught me off guard. Oh, by the way, Chloe has been coming over for dinner almost every day lately. She even apologizes if she can't make it. I felt an inexplicable annoyance bubble up. Mom, stop entertaining her. If she shows up again, just send her away. After traveling for over 2 months, I returned home and felt a bit out of place. Just 2 days later, David called. He said there was a high school reunion and I had to be there. I never liked high school reunions. It's always the same, eating, drinking, gossiping, and everyone showing off. But since I was unemployed now, I figured it would be rude to make an excuse. When David and I arrived at the venue, the private room was buzzing with chatter. As soon as we entered, someone said, "I told you Ethan and Chloe would divorce eventually. Who wouldn't want to have fun with money?" Another person chimed in, "Ethan might be struggling now, but his divorce settlement still makes him richer than all of us." A third voice added, "Yeah, but Chloe must have done something terrible to make him divorce her. There's no way a nice guy like him would choose this unless something was wrong." I just smiled and glanced at David. This reunion is full of surprises. David, always the smooth talker, quickly moved the conversation along. All right, enough about Ethan. Let's talk about everyone else. It's been years since we last saw each other. Let's just enjoy tonight. Soon after, Chloe walked in. As usual, she had everyone's attention. Her beauty was undeniable. She was wearing an outfit that made it clear she was still the same confident woman. But her voice, that playful tone, instantly grabbed the room's attention. "David, you're going too far," she said. "How could you not invite me to this reunion? You should at least let me treat everyone to a meal." The class immediately stood, greeting Chloe. She smiled and sat down, making a show of how busy she was. "I have to come or my husband might really divorce me," Chloe said with a teasing smile, casting a glance in my direction. I froze, my stomach turning. Why was she still making this scene? We were divorced, living separately, and I had no interest in her anymore. David, trying to ease the tension, jumped in with a joke. "Ethan, you're a golden bachelor now. What are you looking for in a partner? If you're having trouble, I can send you to Thailand for a makeover." I leaned back in my chair, resting my chin on my hand. Seriously? Someone a bit more mature, an older sister type who knows how to take care of people. Chloe's face darkened at that. But before I could say anything more, Anna, my old classmate, spoke up, remembering something from earlier that day. "What type of woman are you looking for now, Ethan? Now that you're divorced?" I sighed. The same as before. Someone like Chloe. Anna chuckled softly, her smile genuine. "You know, you could have said something like, someone like you." I gave her an apologetic smile. "Sorry, Anna. You know me. I'll only ever love one person, even if we're apart." The reunion was wrapping up and I decided to leave early. But on my way out, I ran into Anna, who was waiting for me. "Did you drink? Let me drive you home," she offered. I slid into the passenger seat of her car, glancing at her as she drove. She looked stunning as always, her makeup flawless. Trying to lighten the mood, I joked, "You know, if I snap my fingers, you'll forget you ate dinner tonight." She gave me a confused look, then laughed. "Wait, I didn't eat any dinner, though." I nodded, trying to play along. "Of course you didn't." She raised her little fist, playfully hitting me. "No, really. I didn't eat anything." Before I could respond, I heard a knock on the car window. Looking out, I saw Chloe glaring at us from outside. I sighed and opened the door, ready for the inevitable confrontation. "You move fast, don't you?" Chloe snapped before pulling me behind her and without warning, slapping Anna across the face. Anna staggered, almost falling, but I quickly grabbed Chloe's arm. "What the hell are you doing?" Chloe's chest heaved with anger as she pointed at Anna. She schemed against me, didn't she? Anna, recovering from the shock, met Chloe's gaze directly. Maybe I had plans, but you're not the only one who can make a move. The tension in the air was thick, and I realized that Chloe still wasn't over our divorce. She couldn't just let go, no matter how much I had tried to move on. I looked at Chloe, trying to process everything she was saying, but I couldn't ignore the feeling stirring inside me. The evening breeze blew gently, carrying a faint fragrance from her hair. I felt the weight of her words sinking in, but I wasn't sure what to say. She had told me about Anna, my psychologist, before, how she thought I had unresolved issues with my family and marriage, and that reconciling with my past might help me move forward. I hadn't told Chloe about Anna because I was worried she'd get jealous. But now Chloe was opening up, revealing a side of herself I hadn't expected. Her voice was softer as she explained, "A few months ago, Anna said you had serious psychological issues, feeling insecure about your family and your marriage. She suggested you reconcile with your original family to resolve your inner demons." I frowned, still unsure of where this conversation was leading. I just stood there, waiting for her to continue. Chloe looked away for a moment, her gaze fixed on the pond in front of us. At that time, the company was about to go public, and the City Evening News was planning an interview. I knew that your half-brother was involved, so I thought maybe reaching out to him would help, but I was also worried about Lily, my best friend. She was pursuing Jack and I didn't want her to hurt him. So, I pretended to be ambiguous with him, thinking it would keep her from playing with his feelings. Her words hung in the air and I felt a knot form in my stomach. Chloe was talking about things I hadn't fully understood at the time. I hadn't realized how much she'd been trying to protect me, even if her methods weren't exactly straightforward. She clenched her fist, her eyes flashing with frustration. "That woman, Anna, schemed against me," Chloe muttered. "There's no way you and Jack can ever reconcile. This whole situation, it's made you more insecure, and now you're distancing yourself from me." I could see the pain in her eyes. She wasn't lying. The truth was out, and I couldn't ignore it anymore. We both had our demons, and no matter how hard we tried, we couldn't escape them. I took a deep breath. "Let's remarry, prepare for pregnancy, and then I'll give you a family." It wasn't exactly the future I had imagined, but it was one I could picture with Chloe. It was simple, grounded. But as the words left my mouth, I knew it wasn't enough. I looked at Chloe, trying to make sense of everything. "Thank you for helping me face some of my inner demons, but the divorce is still valid. You and I, we're on different paths. You want to build a career, to strive for greatness. I just want a simple life. Wife, kids, a warm bed. We can't keep going down the same road." Chloe's face fell, disappointment flickering in her eyes. Then, as though she had resigned herself to it, she said softly, "Then come home with me. Have a drink with me." I could tell she wasn't just asking for a drink. She was asking for closure. The next thing I knew, I woke up to daylight streaming through the windows. I glanced around, seeing clothes scattered on the floor, and I realized what had happened. I was lost in thought for a while, trying to piece it all together. A month passed and things started to settle. Chloe stopped constantly trying to get my attention and focused more on my mom. We were having dinner one evening when she pulled out a pregnancy test. At first, I didn't understand, but my mom's reaction made it clear. She immediately went to make soup for Chloe, excited and hopeful. Then, one day, I took Chloe to her prenatal checkup. As we sat there, a guy walked by wearing sunglasses, looking cool, and driving a Ferrari. I couldn't help but admire the car. Chloe noticed and teased me. "What's wrong, husband? Do you want it?" I smiled, nodding. "Yeah, I want it. If you like it, I'll buy it for you," Chloe said, her voice filled with confidence. I looked at her surprised. "Really? That's got to be expensive." She smiled and shrugged. "Of course, isn't that what we make money for? To improve our quality of life. And who else would I spend it on if not my husband?" I leaned in and kissed her cheek, feeling a warmth in my chest. "Then, when are we going to the auto show?" Chloe looked at me puzzled. "The auto show? Why to buy sunglasses?" I said with a grin. And for a moment, everything felt right again.